I thought we'd have a fireside chat for this video. I made the last video on the topic of suicide, and on playback the gusts of wind sound dreadful in places on the audio. So I will be reiterating that in the next video. Um, the topic of this video is walk-ins, which is actually the opposite polarity of suicide. I shall put the playlist on walk-ins in the description of this video. To explain what a walk-in is, a walk-in soul, perhaps the easiest place to explain it is in the line in the song Hotel California, "You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave," which on the face of it sounds like a contradiction until you understand what it's talking about. It's talking about the soul and the physical body. So by suicide you could check out, but of course the soul can't leave. It's got to go back through it again. You could see what is sort of suggested with Hotel California is the original ideal that's referenced in Genesis. In the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. There's the original program, the Hotel California. It was supposed to be a sort of holiday deck, as it were, for souls to come and enjoy a physical experience, but it's got a bit twisted. Now, just on a sort of related topic, as Jason of Archaic says, there are patterns. So if I talk about a biblical interpretation from a perspective of Neville Goddard, there is absolutely no contradiction because it's talking about a spiritual history. That would be like the sensation, if I can use a physical comparison, would be to be like feeling a gust of wind on your hand. However, when things play out on the world stage in the material, when they are taken literally and materialize as such, now you have a story that is not like the spiritual history. It now becomes one of duality. So you've got the all-loving creator, and then you've got, as Jason calls it, the desert demon Yahweh, which is the AI. But it's just different perspectives of the same thing. It's that would the analogy I'd give to that was like, you, instead of feeling a gust of wind, it would be the same sensation of when you hit your thumb with a hammer when you're trying to hammer in a nail and you miss the nail and you get your thumbnail instead. The impact, because it's in the material and it's in the solid, it's the only way I can explain the difference between the two. The spiritual, you will feel the sensation. The material can come with pain. Each can feel equally as real as well. So now coming to the subject of a walk-in. What it actually is when a soul has basically just had enough, can't cope with this reality, but rather than go down the route of suicide, which would bring about a curtailment of an avatar of a physical life, the walk-in soul is an agreement between two souls where another soul will come in, and you can have a transition period. I can tell you as a fact that it is it's a 30-day transition, not 30 consecutive days, but over a 30-day period. It's referenced in the Bible story of Jesus starts preaching his ministry at the age of 30. So the original soul, the natal soul, that no longer wants to be here, from the perspective of the walk-in soul, it's, shall we say, like filling a job vacancy, no questions asked. It's like there's a slot come up, do you wish to take it? And there's a mutual agreement with the walk-out soul. And then there's obviously a period where you have to complete tasks of the previous soul, and that's where some get stuck. It's the right time to talk about this now because 21st of January was a huge energy shift where the door shut. I'm sure many of you can relate to the 7-year period we've had since the blood moon. That was the 7-year period of those that were going to remain in the third quadrant Earth and those that shifted to the fourth quadrant Earth. So when we come to the subject of, or the creation in Genesis, the evening and the morning was the first day, it's too easy to assume and have a perspective of seeing a sunset and a sunrise as a indication. So you've got the sun, then you'll have a period with the moon, and then the sun again. It's all too easy to assume that is the same sun. But now we're in this fourth quadrant, as Sonia of Tree of Knowledge channel explains. In the morning you're getting the sun from the first quadrant, and in the evening you're getting the sun from the third quadrant. And then obviously the sun simulators are filling in the gap where there would be no sun. One thing with this material realm and its control system that I have come across is the powers that should not be do not want civil unrest to spark up without their orchestrating, shall we say. So hence this is why you have these sun simulators, because it would become too apparent and cause widespread panic. It's not a bad thing from that context because it saves a lot of suffering. So if you look at the playlist and listen to the first one, there's the Brian Scott video about walk-ins. And the journalist, he quotes Ruth, Montgomery, was saying that from the spiritual realm they won't mention walk-in souls who have now reincarnated into other bodies because it can affect things. But that's by the by, because we've shifted into this fourth quadrant. Nobody else gets in. The choices have been made. You're either in it or you're not in it now. And you find there's not that great a number proportionally that have moved to the fourth quadrant. But I'm sure it'll resonate with all of you about this 7-year period, and look at your own lives, and you may see there was a significant point in your life, a marker, and so on. So I'm actually number 6 in this physical avatar, so I can actually say, and remember, the counting is in days. It's not in years or various calendrical systems. It's always in days. So I can actually say I'm under 21. I've not come of age yet. But equally, I can also say I did calculate this. What was the number? Oh, I can't remember the other number. 700 and something, not years old, but shars. So this year, when the year starts, which I would say is March the 21st, because you've had that 11 days removed in 1752, and then prior to that, and I think it was 1586, there was 10 days removed. There's a 21-day shift. And in the little time I've been here, certainly March the 21st, there was a huge shift. In fact, March the 21st, or I call it Aries the 1st, I will actually be 731 in this avatar. Shars, not years. But the previous ones have had to do what they do. It's like you can see it also like a computer game. So if the character you're controlling is Mario, the one controlling the character, which would be the natal soul, says, I'm fed up with this game. So another player will take over and finish off that level and get that character through that level. It's a dirty job, but somebody's got to do it. But here's the thing, here's the bombshell, here's the sort of revelation of this video. Because we have moved from the third quadrant to the fourth quadrant, remember we're in the realm of duality, so although there are such things as walk out and walk in souls, there is also another aspect where you walk out of the third quadrant and you move into the fourth quadrant of Earth. So whether you realize it or not, and particularly if you happen to have come across this video, it's probably because you are walking into this fourth quadrant. The most famous walk-in as a story would be the Christ being. Rudolf Steiner explains this, that you've got Jesus and then it's at that moment of the baptism, it's expressed as the white dove coming down. It's where that higher being soul inhabits that body, and the actual soul of the physical Jesus in the story departs. There's a transition period, but then it's to fulfill roles in this game, in this reality, whatever way you want to look at it. This inhabiting this avatar, I don't like things messy. So there was a 30-day period prior to my arrival where I'd pop in, and it was like going into the attic of a house and decluttering. See, that's something that's often talked about in the spiritual realm, letting go, decluttering. So I don't know how much has gone, how much has been forgotten, how much has been wiped. The hard drive of this avatar has been... It's had its hard drive wiped. So for the most part, all I have is recollection of emotions from events without the memory of the details of the events that affects huge chunks, years in places, in the life journey of this avatar. But other things are sort of kept stored that can be accessed if prompted, if they are of any benefit. The rest was like discarded. It's expressed as in in the sci-fi series Doctor Who, the time machine, the time and relative dimension in space, jettisons the surplus rooms that are no longer needed. It lets go of the junk. It's the mirror to what is called junk DNA. It's whereas the so-called junk DNA is becoming reactivated, the balance of that is letting go of the bits that are no longer serving, not required. It's a trimming of the vine. It's a streamlining. Because they're things that are going to encumber further progress, they will distract and hold back. And this does cause problems for this finite power, this Yahweh, this AI in this material realm. How many channels have you heard talk about free energy and where the energy has been siphoned off? Well, where is that energy going? If it's being siphoned off and you're of the feeling that that is the case, what is that energy being used for? What is it being funneled into? I would suggest at an energetic level, it is empowering this AI. But the AI is effectively fighting for its very existence, as it were, because I don't know how many walk-ins there are. But it's a lot of work for the AI to try and manage to try and shepherd back into scarcities and into lack. It wants you in these neatly defined boxes. That's reflected on form filling and how the questions give you multiple choice answers and you've got to fit one of those boxes. Well, this is, to use the archaic terminology, it's being inerrant. It's not fitting in the boxes. It's like anybody working as an agent of some official capacity and saying to me, fill in this form, I'd be saying to them, well, excuse me, I've had enough trouble filling this form, this physical being that I'm in now. And when it comes to name, when it comes to age, the answers I'm going to give will not fit in your boxes because they're meaningless and irrelevant and have no bearing on things. So yeah, that's the bombshell. Those of you that have transitioned in this fourth quadrant, who are spiritually, organically intact, shall we say, are on the right path into a transition into something far greater than we can even collectively imagine. And in that is obviously the answer is to expand the imagination. It's all about expansion. It's all about the aspect of Jupiter moving into the Jupiterian age. It is very much, we're at the doorway, the entrance to it, and it's a fantastic journey. So with the walk out soul, it's not a sacrifice of an avatar and an ending of a physical life. It doesn't interfere with life. It lets life run its natural course, but it's now got a new driver at the controls of the vehicle. And as said on the Brian Scott, the first video called Walk-ins, it's from a place of benevolence. It's done from a position, well, I don't have to go back into that physical reality, but I want to go back into that physical reality and help another soul. And step into whatever experience they're having to face because as a walking soul, you've got a back catalogue of past life experiences to draw on. It comes with an understanding, an inner standing, and a recognition that even if it was to sort of come in at the last moment to take over a dying soldier on a battlefield, you'd do it because it feels physically painful, but it isn't. It's all over in a moment anyway. But it's just save another soul from going through unnecessary suffering that could have repercussions. It's ironing out the crumples in the blueprint. It's the analogy I'm going to use for that. So, what do you think of that? Do you feel sufficiently different? Do you feel like your entire personality has changed? Have you got memory loss? This is spiritual science. This isn't something that is tangible that you can point to, but I would say to anybody, well, you know what all the whole spectrum of emotions feel like, whether it be elation, happiness, right through to anger, rage, and whatever, and everything else in between. Does that not feel real to you? Well, you point to the physical thing then. You can't tell me that's not real if you're feeling it, because that is real. What you feel is real. And it's reeling out in this real-to-real world stage. It's a film strip. It's a film script. It's a liquid film strip, but many film strips, so they're shuffled like a pack of cards as well as moving backwards and forwards. And that is a glimmer of the AI calculations being slowed down and shown to you, where it's trying to pull you back into negative state, to pull you back into line, as it were. But you're actually going offline from that AI control. And there comes a point where it just can't, it hasn't got sufficient energy. So you become you're not exactly a threat to it, but it can't stop you now using your free will in the higher self intention purpose. It's expressed in the physical realm. If you hear someone say, "Oh, I better not eat that, that's a bit too rich for me," like a truffle chocolate muffin or something, the vibration that you're on is too great for the AI. It cannot absorb and digest high vibration. It needs low vibration state. That's its food. It's what it's accustomed to eating in an energetic form. So the more you can vibrate higher. That's basically what a star seed is. It's nothing to do with it up there. It's a star as in the sense of a bright white light. Which reminds me, there's a video I was going to make. It's a well-known, or I've heard it said many times. It's a slang expression in England. Oh, come on, play the white man. Now, it's obviously got a duality to that. The implication is if you're white-skinned, then you're going to be honourable, which clearly is not the case in many cases. But when we turn it round and see it from a spiritual perspective, playing the white man is when all your cells have switched on and they have all lit up. When the pineal gland has become fully active, and you would appear to those that are on the right frequency to glow. So you would be playing the white man, because regardless of what colour your avatar is totally irrelevant, because it's nothing to do with the physical realm. This is about the energetic vibration that can't be seen with the physical eyes, but can be sensed by those that are of a similar vibration. It's a recognition, like a soul recognition as much as anything else. So yeah, now it can be openly talked about walk-ins. One of the things that's interesting, as again mentioned on that first video, is how people can look into spiritual things and never come across the term. That, again, that's all by design, but it no longer matters, because you've all walked into this fourth quadrant of Earth, and glad you're here. It's a beautiful time to be here. There is rather a lot of us. It's deliberately fractalized, so if you listen to Adrian Elise, the term used would be supernova soul. If you listen to Jason of Archaics, the term used will be errant. And many other channels obviously have different labels, but effectively it's states of awareness, states of spiritual growth. And finding the way through, and also recognizing and distinguishing the physical from the metaphysical, and seeing the pattern of how what's expressed in the metaphysical plays out in the material as taken literally, hence the stories that we have today. Are they true or are they not true? It's just down to perspectives and whether it's been talked of in the spiritual. But of course, think also of Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome film. That I've mentioned this before. The little civilization, this oasis in the middle of nowhere in the post-apocalyptic world, and the only survivors are children. So the older ones have got memories, or they know the stories what their previous generations, their ancestors, their parents, or whoever was with them, had told them of. But now the things have got no relevance. So when Mad Max, played by Mel Gibson, appears, they think he's this Captain Walker. They have no concept of aircraft fuel, and the thing needs a runway. They just see it and interpret it in a language that they can understand. It doesn't make it untrue, but it's lacking in that technical knowledge. In the same way as a child, if you get one of those cardboard tubes from a toilet roll and you stick a couple of triangular bits of paper on it, you've got a space rocket or a missile or something. But does that mean you have any understanding about jet propulsion? It's symbolic representations, reenactments. It's things we do as a child. It's when we can recognize all these things together and what they really mean, and it's, like I said, it's an amazing world. And only today, after uploading the last video, when I said this is amazing, I get a message with a post that mentions the word amazement, because it is a maze for the mind. It just depends what's leading that mind. Is it the lower self? Is it the animalistic survival mode? Or is it the higher self? We don't know which one will guide you through the best, by far. That is from experience. I can say that. So yes, so you're all walking souls at the end of the day now, and nobody else comes in, nobody else goes out. It's onward and upwards. You've made your choice. Let's do this.